I make a motion to open the meeting, call to order. We are going to hold the salute to the flag tonight, and that's something I'd like to do when the public is here. I believe it's something that I hold near and dear, and I think the moment of silence in doing it then is more appropriate. So, Mr. Edwards, our roll call.
Here, it's very hard to hear down here.
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 Ms. Walrath?
Here.
Mr. White?
Here.
Mr. Lamello?
Yes.
Mr. Cuccinelli? The New Jersey Open Publics Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this Act, the Brick Township Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be posted on the Administration Office Bulletin Board, the official district website, and Channel BTV 20, and sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Brick Times, the Star Ledger, and Municipal Clerk's Office.
Screen is frozen. I make a motion to move to executive session.
Second.
Whereas the Brick Township Board of Education has been formed pursuant to applicable New Jersey statutes, and whereas the board is charged with the responsibility of performing all acts and doing all things consistent with law and the rules of the State Board of Education, necessary for the lawful and proper conduct, equipment, and maintenance of the public schools and the public school property of the Brick Township School District, and whereas Section 7 of the Open Publics Meeting Act permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting of the board in certain circumstances, and whereas the board has determined that circumstances exist for such an executive session, and whereas the board has found the action described below to be necessary and proper, now therefore be resolved by the board on February 25th, 2016, that the public shall be excluded from the discussion of and action on the executive session herein set forth. The session will be approximately 30 minutes, and the general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is a special education litigation. It is anticipated at this time that the above stated subject matter will be made public if and when it is deemed to be in the public interest to do so, and the need for confidentiality is no longer required by the board.
Ms. Cuccinelli?
Yes.
Ms. Cantillo?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Catala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Lamello?
Yes. Sorry. I'd like to open the meeting. I'd like everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to do a motion to come back to public session.
I'll second that.
Second by Ms.
Cantillo?
Cantillo. I'm so used to calling you Sharon.
Ms. Cuccinelli?
Yes.
Ms. Cantillo?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Catala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Lamello?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lamella. We just have two presentations. The Brick Memorial student representative is not going to be able to come tonight, but we do have Lexi Adams here from Brick High School who's going to give us a short presentation. Lexi?
Good evening. I'm Lexi Adams from Brick High School. I'm president of the National Honor Society. I'd like to begin with giving you updates on the winter sports. The wrestling team had nine players advance from districts to regions. It was the most we've ever had in school history make it that far. Joe Ferrigni and Dean Haustowski took first place in the district, and we had 3 second placers and 4 third placers. The team placed third overall. Also, Coach Michael Broadinelli won Assistant Coach of the Year for his hard work and dedication to the team. Joe Ferrigni, Anthony Costanza, and Dean Haustowski will be advancing to the second round of regions this weekend. The basketball team has the first winning record it's had in a couple years. They're 13-10, which is a big deal. Their state tournament game is Monday against Morristown. It's their first time in state since 2007. The girls bowling team won the Tournament of Champions for the second year in a row. And the boys bowling team were the South Jersey Group 3 champions. And Jordan Malaysia was an individual short conference champion. Boys swimming was also on fire this year. Their record was 8-3. They qualified for states for the first time in many years as well. They were second in short conference, and for one of their relays, they took first in conference and broke one of the records. For the winter track team, Alex Miertor and Steve Nugent will compete in the Meet of Champions after making it out of the group and sectional meets. I would also like to congratulate Jordan Keefe and Alex Chapasso for signing their letters of intent to continue their academic and football careers to play Division I football at Sacred Heart University. We have a few fundraisers going on in the school. Recently, we had Free Throws for a Cure here at the school. The boys and girls basketball teams came together to raise money for the Dugard family, whose son has been diagnosed with cancer. Each player got sponsors or donations, and their sponsors gave them a certain amount of money for each free throw they made. So far, they raised $3,500 for the family. We've also been putting together a lot of fundraisers for our former head custodian, Tom Hebert, who has severe cancer. We did an alumni basketball game for him. The alumni basketball players came back and played. We also had Interact members and the boys basketball team. They're selling tickets, doing concession stands. We have a winter formal dance for him this weekend on Saturday. And next Friday is our biggest event for him. We're going to do a Beatlemania and comedy show here at the school. And all the proceeds made from tickets, concessions will go towards him. One of our special education teachers and formal football coach, Mr. Robert Dahl, was just honored as the Masonic Lodge's Educator of the Year. Congratulations, Mr. Dahl. Freshmen, sophomores, and juniors are currently in the process of choosing their classes for next year. Guidance counselors are not only assisting these students, but they have also visited parents at Lake Riviera Middle School to help incoming freshmen get their schedules ready for next year. Thank you for your time. It was a pleasure as always, and I will see you after spring break.
Thank you, Lexi, and thank the school for helping Mr. Hebert out. I know he's going through some tough times, and Mr. Filippone, you have to remind me to give you a check for a ticket. Mr. Mosley is going to do the HIB report that we do twice a year, Mr. Mosley. Sure. He has a short presentation. It's a PowerPoint presentation, so you want to turn your seats around and take a look at that. Mr. Mosley, the ticket is yours.
Very well. Good evening, everyone. We're just covering from August to December. We'll be back for the second half. This is where we stand currently on investigations and completed HIBs and actual HIBs. As you can tell, we've been meeting the guidelines from the state with the 10-day guidelines, and I'll address more on the actual HIBs in another slide. This is where we stand currently. Basically, we've run with 17 total HIBs this year. And spread out, obviously, we have a few schools which are sitting with zeros: Drum Point, Herbertsville, Osborneville, and Warrenville Wolf. And this is the comparison I want to get you to look at. You can see Brick Township last year had 3. Right now they're sitting with 1. Memorial last year had 4. Currently they're at 3. Drum Point 0, 0. Emma has 2. They're 1 above last year. Excuse me. Herbertsville sitting at 0. Lake Riviera has jumped up a little this year, and I'll address that in a later slide. But the rest are pretty well consistent. The big drop we see, of course, is at Vets Middle. Last year they had 17. This year they only have 3. And this would have been fast. And it won't go back. Yeah, it won't go back. You get me. All right. The programs that we run are mainly run at those schools, and it's dependent on their own school bodies. What we do at the elementary schools is vastly different from what we would do at the high schools. The specialists are coordinating all the programs and specific events on their school calendar, i.e. the Week of Respect, all schools did events, and then we continue with other events throughout the year. And all programs are designed to be age appropriate. Training itself, we've had a lot of different training. One of the things that we've noticed, we are seeing a lower incidence of bullying at this point. Especially we notice, of course, at Vets Middle where we've dropped considerably. We spend a lot of time there. Training for the ABSs continues. We had a conference in August, and we'll be getting again together with them later this year before the end of the year. Elementary schools, what we do is focus on character ed. They're using Kelso's Choices, which is one of the curriculums they use. Also the curriculum from the New Jersey Bar Association. And we have a lot of other programs to promote diversity that the schools run on their own. Middle schools still maintaining focus on character education. 8th grade indoctrination coming over to the high schools. And Lake Riviera, we actually had a special program this year. Small wonder, she's actually a basketball player who is challenged, blind in one eye. And she came in and did an awesome presentation with the kids about showing how you can overcome any obstacles in your life. Kids really received it well. High school, continuing character education. What we have is Society of Influence and Game Changers with Colleen Finnegan, and that group meets weekly at both high schools. We basically have a core group of kids, and we work on changing school culture with them. They also meet with the mayor. At Brick Memorial, they've actually made a positive comment wall right there by the cafeteria. We'll be putting up one here at Brick Township later. Assemblies, we had an assembly at Memorial. A group came in, one of our students, Jonathan Stamper, and his friends came in and they did a whole group thing on being positive. And we also have school-based at both schools to support. Any questions?
Board members, any questions? Thank you, Mr. Mosley.
Thank you.
Mr. Lamella, I think it's back to you.
Committee reports. Committee reports?
Any approval minutes?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for the February 4th executive session.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Go.
Notice, just one question. On the regular session, I just saw one mistake on one of my votes. It has on number 4, under curriculum and instruction, it lists me as abstaining on all of that item, but I only abstained on the Monmouth University students. So for what it's worth, if we could amend that, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Motion to amend the resolution to approve the minutes as per Mrs. Cusinelli's statement.
So I make the motion?
Any
Okay, I'll make the motion to amend that, please.
I'll second it.
discussion?
Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call?
Ms. Cusinelli?
Yes.
Ms. Gentile?
I have to abstain on February 4th executive session. I was not here. And yes to February 4th regular meeting.
Just point of clarification, we're only voting on the amendment at this time.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Michaela?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes.
Mr. Lamel, now you back to any other further discussion on minutes.
Any further discussion on the minutes? Seeing none?
Now roll.
Mr. Cusinelli?
Yes.
Ms. Cantillo?
I have to abstain on February 4th. I wasn't here for the executive session, but yes to February 4th regular meeting.
Mr. Barton?
Abstain on executive session, yes for regular meeting.
Ms. Bacala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes. Okay. Now, committee reports?
Facility?
Yep.
Okay. The Facilities Committee met on February 18th in attendance. Mr. Iamello, forgive me, I forgot the presenter from Mr. Mullen. Mr. Mullen, Mr. Rubino, Mr. Gianella, Mr. Liming, Mr. White, and myself. The committee discussed the sinkholes in the parking lot area at the Vets Complex. It seems that we have a solution to the sinkholes, which would include putting caulking in the joints for repair at this time. The committee discussed window projects. The committee discussed at the high school a high-efficiency water heater. The sustainable energy program was discussed. The air conditioning unit at Vets Middle School is installed, and I believe that was for multi-purpose room area and the cafeteria area. And then on the agenda tonight, the Facilities Committee is seeking the board's approval for items 9, number 17, number 18, and number 3 only.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Anything from finance? Stephanie?
Yeah, Jim?
Nope. Oh, of course, I left your outline in there.
I ran from a different place. I didn't get
Okay,
home, so-
I didn't bring it in.
Yeah. Jim,
Yes, ma'am.
could you get the finance committee meeting for me? I didn't make it back to my house before
Oh,
coming in.
sure. I'll
Thank
pull
you.
it up. In 1 minute.
Okay, do we have anything from personnel?
Yes, there was a committee meeting held on February 16th. We discussed the human resources agenda for the meeting to be held tonight. We did raise questions about why certain teachers' aides were being transferred in February, and Ms. Osborne said she would pursue that. We also had a request to look into the reason for reassigning teachers' aides to different students throughout the school year. Why and how is this done? In response to previous requests for a staffing report for each building, one was provided, and Mr. Gianella provided an overview of current and future models of the Brick Township Schools organization chart. And it was noted that that civil service jobs that were previously uncategorized were going to be put back into the category of civil service positions.
Jim, do you have the finance?
I did. So on February 18th, the Finance Committee met. The Finance Committee discussed the 2016-17 budget, which we're in the process of crafting. At that time, we did not know our state aid figures. We have received state aid information since then, and I sent an email out to the board indicating that we're receiving an additional $86,500, which, sorry for my sarcasm in the email, but as you noted, I put it's better than a decrease. We also discussed marketing and advertising on the school within the school district. We're going to be looking at policy to see if there needs to be change to policy or policy crafted to allow for that. We talked about the property that the board approved for sale behind Veterans Memorial Middle School back in June of 2013. And as that property sale is coming to a completion, we talked about the revised 15-16 food service budget, which is on for the board's approval tonight. The contract with the TWU was settled after the budget was developed and approved by the board last year. The salary increases that were given to TWU members is the reason why that budget needs to be revised. We talked about the NCLB carryover approval, which is on this evening for your approval. We talked about Chapter 192 additional funds for the non-public schools that's on the agenda for tonight for your approval. We talked about the car donation from the Township of Brick that's going to be used by our attendance officer due to the fact that her car currently died. And we talked about the insurance brokerage services competitive contract RFPs. Ms. Bacala requested information about the Educational Foundation and how we can move forward with the possibility of Educational Foundation in Brick Township. And that was it.
Thank you.
That was a lot.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't remember.
Do we ask anybody has questions? If anyone has questions, go ahead.
Yes, through the chair, could I just request that, I had asked for the Finance Committee minutes, and Ms. Walrab said that Mr. Edwards would be sending them out, but I did not receive them. So could I just request that I receive the minutes from that committee meeting, please?
Absolutely.
Thank
yes.
you. And also, I have information regarding the previous Brick Township Education Foundation, if anybody wants to talk to me about that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. We don't vote on those things. Okay.
Short report for the last 3 weeks. As I've told the board, I've been around to all the different schools now and completed meeting with and speaking to the principals and staff members, department heads. I had an opportunity to meet with the chief of police and the mayor. Maybe now I can get back to my office and sign some of the papers that have been sitting there. A couple of things, information. We have a couple of park information sessions coming up, one at Vets L on March 2nd and one at Vets L on March 16th, both at 6 o'clock. And we encourage parents to become part of those things. We have a couple of good news items with staff members. We have a teacher at Lake Riviera Middle School, Jen Lane, who is our STEM teacher, is a finalist for the Albert Einstein Distinguished Educator Fellowship. This weekend, she's going down to Washington, D.C. to be interviewed. Really an outstanding teacher and an outstanding award. It's a very competitive program. So we wish her good luck, but she's really done an outstanding job no matter where it goes from here. But we're optimistic that an outstanding teacher like her will continue with that. If she continues with that, that would mean a year's leave of absence, and they'll be training her for a year at their expense in Washington, D.C. with a private company to further her education and then come back to us with that knowledge. So it really is an outstanding opportunity for her and for the Brick Township School District. I want to compliment our guidance counselor at Brick High School, Kevin McKnight, who sends or communicates with parents through email, and he has put me on his send list, and even on Saturday nights, if anybody is on his send list, you're getting emails about your student, and what they should be doing for getting ready for college and preparing for school. So he really does an outstanding job, and we'd like to see that grow perhaps to other parts of the district, and I'm going to be talking to Kevin about that, but he should be commended, Mr. Filippone, for the outstanding job he does. I'll be reaching out to the policy committee next week about a policy meeting because I did pull one policy off because I wanted to go over some language in that policy that I wasn't sure of that the board understood or I understood, so I wanted to go over that. And we have a couple of policies that Dr. Caldez is working on that we need to look at and begin moving along. And lastly, I attended the Lake Riviera Middle School Science Expo. I saw Mr. White there. I don't know if any other board members were there, but it was really a tribute to Dr. Anderson, Mr. Campbell, and Mrs. Zarnicki, and the students and staff there for an outstanding job, and they should be complimented for that. So, Mr. Lamella?
Thank you. All right. Curriculum and instruction. The superintendent recommends that the board approve the following items.
The superintendent recommends items 1 to 4 under curriculum and instruction.
I'll make a motion.
Sharon made the motion.
Second.
Stephanie seconded. Any board comment on curriculum and instruction? Any public comment on curriculum and instruction? Seeing none?
Ms. Cusinelli?
I have to abstain on the Monmouth University portion of number 3, but yes to the rest of number 3, and yes to all the others.
Ms. Cantillo?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Bacala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes. Under operations?
If I could just, before we give it to Mr. Edwards under operations, I'm going to go request the board that we administratively withdraw under operations item 9, the Wallace change order number 2 window project. That
I'll
we
make a
withdraw.
motion for that, Mr. Gianello.
I'm not sure we need a motion. Mr. Montenegro? An administrative withdrawal?
Administrative withdrawal would be within the province of the superintendent.
Yeah. Thank you, though.
Okay.
Thank you for supporting it.
Mr. Edwards?
Thank you. The interim superintendent recommends that the board approve items 1 through 19.
Oh, I had a question.
Okay. You need a motion, right?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. John Barton made the motion.
Second.
Stephanie, second. Any board comment?
I do have a question.
Hold, Victoria's trying to find her question.
All right.
I'm sorry, excuse me, through the chair, could I don't know if it's me because I have a head cold, but could I ask everybody to speak into the microphone? I'm having a hard time hearing, so.
No problem.
Thank you.
Definitely, thank
Appreciate
you. While, go ahead, Mr. Barton, while she's looking for her question, go ahead.
That's
Is that
okay,
better?
go ahead.
Number 1, transfers. On page 2 of the transfers, I'm not sure whether it's me. Page 2, the very last line, brick wrestling mat. We went from an old amount of $3,000, made an adjustment of $13,000. So that's added to that account, is that correct? And all the others with the parentheses are deductions.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Barton. Number 421, in this current year's budget, they had budgeted $13,078 to recondition the wrestling mat over there. What they found out is that the cost of a new wrestling mat is actually less money than reconditioning the old one. So they're seeking to transfer the money from their reconditioning account to their equipment account so that they can buy a new wrestling mat.
I see now. Thank you.
Thank you. Victoria?
No, that's fine, thank you.
Any public comment? Seeing none?
Ms. Cusinelli?
No on number 15, yes to the rest.
Ms. Cantillo?
I'm going to abstain on number 15 because I have had a couple questions that I didn't understand the answers to. So yes to the rest, but I'm going to abstain on number 15.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Bacala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes. Megan, do you have anything?
Mr. Lamella, the interim superintendent recommends that the board approve the following items listed 1 through 19.
Did you speak to that? Or?
No, she did.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll make a motion.
Oh, I should-
Sharon made the motion.
Second.
Who seconded? I'm sorry.
Stephanie.
Stephanie seconded. Any board questions? Any questions
Yes,
on,
I
or
want-
any comments on human resources from the public?
Victoria has a question.
I wanted to know, with number 13, these transfers that are being made of teachers' aides to different schools, why is it that they became available in the middle of the school year?
Megan, you have the answer to that?
Yes, I do. One of the teachers, the student moved out of district, moved to a different town, and so they were able to move one of those teachers' assistants, or teachers' aides, I'm sorry, to a different school. And the other one moved out of district as well, but for service reasons.
Thank
They were
you.
able to move.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Seeing no other?
Cusinelli?
Yes.
Ms. Cantillo?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Bacala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes.
Policies, Tom.
My fat fingers aren't really doing this well.
Mine either.
Okay, we're recommending policy 1140, 1600, and 6142.4 for a second reading. And as discussed earlier, I just withdrew policy 1120 because I want to go over it with the policy committee and make sure that I understand it and that they understand it. And we will bring that back if there are no substantial changes for a second reading. So the interim superintendent recommends those three policies.
Motion?
I make a motion to accept these
Victoria's the first.
policies.
Second.
Stephanie's the second.
I'm sorry, was it question time?
I'm doing it right now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm trying to be loud so you could hear too, because I'm having a hard time hearing. Any board comment?
I have a question, please.
Go.
On policy 1140, since this is second reading, we had discussed it last month, and I didn't see any highlights in my administrative notes, but it would appear as if there has not been the change that we discussed, because it still says that any nonprofit service organization which is based solely within the boundaries of this district, et cetera, shall be permitted to utilize the school's communication systems to alert the community to its fundraising activities. I do see that it says later on that they shall register and obtain permission, but it does not leave any kind of an out. This was what we had discussed
You are
last month, and
correct.
it does not appear as if anything had been changed. And I noticed that on the other policies as well. I don't know if any revisions were actually made since last month.
If I remember right, there were no other revisions, but what I'll do, since I wasn't sitting here and taking notes, I'll reach out to you. Let me try this again. I'll reach out to you and get the language that you understand, because perhaps I didn't understand it well enough, and we'll bring it back next month if that's okay.
Sure.
With the
Were there
revisions.
changes to the other ones? Because the
I
other
don't
one
think there-
that talks about option 2, it doesn't look like that had been changed at all either.
I'm going to check my notes as well, and we'll just communicate, Tom and Karen, because there were, I thought, some to option 2.
Mrs. Cusinelli, are you asking us to withdraw those until we make those satisfactory?
You know what? I mean, quite truthfully, maybe I'll make a motion just since we're holding the other one anyway. And respectfully, I'd like to request that when there are changes, it is easier for all of us as board members to highlight those changes. So rather than having to print off two different, the old and the new, and see if there were any changes, it's kind of a more efficient way for us to look at it. So maybe I'll make a motion then to hold these until our next meeting along with the other one,
Okay.
if there's a second.
I second.
Okay.
You need a motion, vote on the motion.
Motion to
You have
vote
to
on the
vote on the
motion.
motion.
No, you need a,
We need a motion to vote on the motion.
That's what I just said.
No.
Motion to vote on the
you just
motion.
need a vote.
Oh, we just need a vote.
And the motion is going to be for 1140 and 6142 for only?
We're going to table all three at this time for review and revision. That's the motion. Correct, Karen? I heard you
Yes, thank
correctly.
you. Yes.
Thank you.
Motion to table them.
Go ahead.
Ms. Cusinelli?
Yes.
Ms. Cantillo?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Bacala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes. Any public comment? Seeing none, any board comment?
Yes.
Go ahead, Stephanie. Or
That was
Victoria, I'm
Victoria.
sorry.
We have to do some kind of arch with this table. I'd like to report that I attended last evening the statewide Parent Advocacy Network presentation that was spearheaded by Mrs. Susan McNamara on the topic of creating a special education parent advisory group, which is different from a special education PTA. And I just like to comment that it was a very productive meeting. It was very detailed. people attending the meeting actually made commitments to take part in such a organization should it come to fruition in Brick Township. And I just really have to commend Ms. McNamara and Ms. Stump and all the paras and teachers and parents who attended last night to further the dialogue between the district and our parents and our teachers and students.
Any other board members have any comment?
I just want
John?
to reiterate what Mr. Gianello said about the science fair at Lake Rivera Middle School. I had the opportunity to attend that, and it's just wonderful what's happening there with the students. I want to compliment the teachers and the administration, particularly Dr. Anderson, the job that she's doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any?
And I'm sorry, while I'm advertising for special education, I'd just like to make a note that on March 16th, the Brick Special Education Department will put on their resource fair from 5 to 7 at Brick Township High School. And that is a great resource for parents, and I encourage all parents to attend.
Sharon?
Thank you, Mr. Lamella. First, I'd like to say that Mr. Gianella's baptism to the district was quite an eventful one, and constantly got emails of all the trips he was making to our facilities for broken pipes and everything. Thank you very much for keeping us all in the loop about that, and that was quite an introduction to the district. I hope you're not scared off.
I did say in my first 4 days, I had a snowstorm, a pipe break, and a gas leak.
Yes.
So what happened on day 5 could not equal the first 4.
I also, on a much more somber note, I'd like to offer condolences to the Shower family. Amanda Shower was a graduate of Brick High School who left this world much too early, and her services were last night and today, and she will be sorely missed. But I'd just like to recognize that.
Thank you, Sharon. I so appreciate that. Thank you. Steph, nothing?
President Lamella, I had the opportunity with a few fellow board members to attend the New Jersey School Boards Association county meeting in Lakehurst. There were 3 workshops offered, informative, topic of interest of how to maintain a high level of academics and how to improve academics along the way. Very interesting. And I'd also like to congratulate Mrs. LaRusso. Reading Adventure Night last night at Emma Havens Young, they had a terrific turnout. The kids were running around orderly, having a great time. She moved the book fair from the small library upstairs downstairs into the all-purpose room. It was spread out now, and people had a chance to walk in and not wait online. It was a very nice evening. And activities for the kids. They were making crafts, and just seemed that everybody had a good night.
Thank you, John.
Congratulations to Emma
Thank
Havens
you.
Young.
Karen?
Just one thing, in reviewing all of our meeting minutes, I was going to ask President Lamella to maybe consider, as we move forward, I just want to give you an example. I've been looking into this with other districts. I've had some people talk to me about this. To quote an example of how we record our minutes. One member of the public, question number 2, Mr. Edwards answered. That's really not giving a lot of information to the public, and I know that we've been great about archiving our videos, but it is very time-consuming, and it's difficult if someone is looking for information to have to go and listen to the whole video to try to find that. And I was looking at other districts to see what they do, and we have, I think we're one end of the spectrum, and I've seen districts that do literally a transcript of every word said, which I don't think is really necessary. But just moving forward, I thought it would be a good thing to consider to maybe kind of find some kind of a balance in between where, we do require people who speak to list their information, and it would be nice that it would also save the superintendent and other people from getting repeat questions, because if you're able to look at minutes and see, a question was asked about this specific item and see what the answer is, I think that would really add transparency to what we do, and I think it would probably make things run more smoothly for everybody if you would just consider that.
Absolutely, thank you. And
I'll speak to the people who do the minutes to try to make it a little bit more comprehensive.
I was just going to say that. So I was going to ask him to do that. He's doing it.
Thank you.
Before I get to the calendar, I had an opportunity to only stop by one school, and it was Brick Township High School. And I chose the end of the day by accident. And I got to tell you, I couldn't be prouder. Staff here, kids here, energy. It's just a small sample of what I got to see. So thank you to you and your building, Mr. Philippone. I know you're here. Beyond that, I need to thank everybody sitting at this table tonight. Everybody, every single person, because I've had to call you and say, I'm trying, I'm getting it. I've had to call and ask for advice at times, and people have given it. And you're making my transition better. I want to make it more better. So I'm working with Mr. Gianella to all my committees to create a calendar, to come up with the best practices on how to get the questions out ahead of time, so that we have better answers when the questions are asked. So again, I just want to thank everyone. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. The next meeting is March 17th at 7 p.m. here at Brick Township High School.
Make a motion for adjournment.
I'll second that.
Victoria, and then Sharon.
Ms. Cusinelli?
Yes.
Ms. Cantilla?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Pacala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes. Thank you, everyone.